Hey, everybody. Welcome to another Run Wild with Us. Ask us whatever you want. I am Lisa Kastner. I am the founder and executive editor of Running Wild Press. I'm usually here with Chris Major. He is our acquisitions editor and also one of our more senior editors. He's running a little bit late. He recently actually went through a pretty significant move across country, so he's got a lot going on. With that, I want to thank everybody for joining us. We are actually typically going to have little visitors. This one is Master. He is one of my two cats, the Master and Margarita. Master's favorite thing actually is to be on my lap as soon as I am in the middle of doing something else. So clearly, this is something else other than paying attention to him. For those of you who may not have joined us before, what we do is every Wednesday between 4 p.m. and 5 p.m. Pacific time, 7 p.m. and 8 p.m. Eastern time. Yep, that's right. We come on live stream on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. And it's your opportunity to ask us, again, whatever you want. Typically, it's around publishing, creative writing, what's our process in terms of submissions. It really can be whatever you want. Now, if it's something that's a little bit bizarre, we may or may not answer the question. We'll see. We'll find out. Depends on what that question is. And so if you do have a question, please go ahead, go into the comments section, pop it in the comments section, and we will respond to it. Now, if this is not Wednesday and you're watching this and it's a recorded version, because again, we record every single one, then that's not a big deal. Go ahead and put your comment or your question in the comments section, and we will be more than happy to answer in the subsequent session. So with that, we actually had two questions that I found on some of our previous posts. So I wanted to take a moment to go through those and answer those questions. So with that, oh, hold on one sec. Oh, Chris is a little bit late. He is stuck in traffic. Again, no big deal. So guys, I will entertain you until Chris comes on. So we are going to start with a question that came in from John Hardick. John says, "Hey, Lisa, I can't be with you guys due to a Zoom schedule conflict with my wife's church." So this was a couple days ago. He actually may be able to join this one. So I'll catch up with you tomorrow. Catch up tomorrow morning when he's drinking coffee and watching this and checking out the video. However, he does have a question. It's a little bit long. No big deal. "At times, I will read an anthology of short stories and occasionally come across one that changes point of view. Recently, I read two that went from first person all the way to the end, then went to third. Your thoughts?" Here's an example. Quote, "I had this urge to bite my girlfriend in the neck. It got stronger as the evening went on. Then at dinner," actually it's spelled diner, but hey, "I lunged across the table." Unquote. "John's girlfriend ran out of the house to the neighbors. She banged on the door. When the neighbor answered to the frantic woman, he smiled and bared his fangs." Your thoughts and comments. "I was under the understanding that you should be consistent in how you tell your story." So that's actually a really great question. Within a story, so one book that I actually recommend is, of course, now it popped out of my head, but you can change points of view as long as you are typically consistent in it. So what I mean by that is there are authors, and I actually use this technique myself. You're basically setting the pace, or you're setting expectations for the author in what point of view is being used. So if you elect to change points of view within a story, you just want to make sure that you prepare the reader for that within the first chapter, basically. And then you do it in a consistent manner throughout the piece. having it in like first person point of view all the way through, and then at the very last chapter have it in third person is a bit odd. It's not surprising that, John, you found that jarring. I think most readers would probably find it jarring. I'm assuming that the author had a reason for doing that. Um, Typically, that kind of technique causes emotional separation, which is good, right? That means that for whatever reason, they felt as though the ending needed that kind of emotional separation, compared to what happens when you're writing in a first person perspective. That's just my guess. I don't, obviously I don't know. I'm not the author. But there are a variety of techniques that you can use where you shift points of view, and that's totally fine. One that's a little bit more common to see is there's a chapter that's written more from a third person close, or third person distant, right? More like an omniscient point of view. And then a subsequent chapters in a first person point of view, as if the narrator is speaking to the reader. But it's actually one of the characters within the story who's telling basically their perspective to the reader. Again, that's another one. As long as the structure of the story supports it and it's done in a consistent manner, then it's totally cool to do that. So, John, I hope that helps. I hope that answers your question. Again, it's all about setting expectations with the reader and using whatever technique you're going to use consistently. Okay. Next question. This one is from Julie Ricks McClintock. Greetings. I was trying to direct a friend to a copy of Running Wild Anthology of Stories, Volume 3, Book 1, where I have a story published on Amazon, then your website, and I can't find it. Is it no longer available? Julie, that's an awesome question. So we actually recently switched distributors. And so because of that switch, there have been several glitches in book availability. Hopefully now, if you go to Amazon and you search on any one of our books, minimally you'll find it available in ebook. The majority are also available in paperback. There are a handful that if you go to Amazon, they are not showing as being available in paperback yet. So I'm actually currently working with our new distributor to remedy those issues. If you go on like bookshop.org, on that forum, there's a larger number of books in paperback that are not showing as available. They're showing as on back order. So I'm working with them to try and figure out why, because from our perspective, there's no reason for the books to be showing as on back order. If you are a fan of ours, or we've published your stories, or whatever the case may be, please feel free to reach out to me at lkastner@runningwildpress.com. And I'm more than happy to give you an update on where we are in terms of ensuring that our books are fully available. I literally just did an audit of every single one of our titles on Amazon and bookshop.org for their availability. That's how I know what I know right now. And I literally just started the conversations on Monday with our distributor as well as with bookshop.org to clarify and find out what the heck is going on and how we can make sure that our titles are all available for you wonderful people to pick them up. Cool? Cool. Okay, great. Now, Wendy Lane asks, how would you recommend selecting someone to write a critique blurb for your published story? Wendy, that's a great question. So there are several different ways that you can select people to write your ask for a blurb. If you wrote in a specific genre, it's usually a pretty good idea to reach out to those who have already been published in that genre and who did very well in that genre. So no name. Just go ahead and reach out to them. Ask them if they would be willing to read your book. I suggest that when you ask, just let them know that you'll be happy to send them a complete copy. There's no pressure, that kind of thing. Because a lot of times, especially better known authors are crazy busy. They have so much work going on there's so much that they may not be able to actually have time to write a blurb. But if you don't ask, you don't get. So I definitely recommend going and asking. So that's one. Two, if you wrote a story that maybe it's not in a specific genre or doesn't like cleanly align to a genre, but there are authors that were influenced who heavily influence you in your writing. So someone may actually see them in the story when you write it, when they read it, rather. Reach out to them, ask them for a blurb. Also, reach out if you've ever been to a conference, if you've ever been to a seminar, if you've ever gone to like a bread loaf or a Comic-Con, and you were in a class with someone, ask them. Why not? Oftentimes, former instructors will be more than happy to write a blurb, again, assuming that they have the availability, they have the time to do it. Another way that you can actually identify someone to be a critique, if you worked with an editor on this story, then what I suggest is actually going to your editor and asking them if there are any writers that reminded them that your writing reminded them of. Woo, that was poorly constructed, but you know what I mean. That when they read it, they thought of that author. Then I'd say reach out to them, because that's also a pretty good indicator that they'll probably like the story, unless they hate their own writing, and that's a whole nother thing that involves therapy for that individual. So another thing, if your piece is a piece that it's very like politically driven, it's aligns to very specific topics like of today. So maybe it's something around how humans are destroying the planet, or how to become more eco-friendly, or corruption in government, or whatever. And there are public figures or influencers that you can think of who may find these topics interesting. Then I'd say reach out to them and see if they would also be willing to give you a blurb for your story. So I hope that helps. If you have any other questions, Wendy, again, feel free to go ahead and email me at lkastner@runningwildpress.com, and I am more than happy to answer your questions. Okay, as long as I have an answer. Who knows? Maybe I won't. It could happen. All right, so today I didn't really actually come in with any distinct topics to talk about. This has been a really interesting week. I've been very focused this week on again, working on our transition to completing our transition to our new distributor. Oh, we actually have started doing something super fun, or at least I hope everyone's finding this fun. I had a dear friend whom I used to work with a little while ago, not too long ago, a little while. And she found out that Colbert, so Stephen Colbert for The Late Show, has a program right now where he is offering independent or small businesses an opportunity to create a video letting him know about them. And then you tag him and The Colbert Show or The Late Show on that post, and let him know about you and what your challenges are, and ensure that you include like an email address or a website or a location, something like that. And he may highlight you on The Late Show. So myself and our incredible team got together, and we came up with a couple of different concepts for us to post. So what I promise you is that when these videos are ready to be aired, we will post them on YouTube, on Twitter, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, so you guys can have a chance to check them out. So hopefully you like them. Hopefully they're effective. And hopefully, like I said, hopefully you enjoy them. Wendy Lane says, thank you so much. Wendy, thank you. That was actually, or not actually, that was a great question. And I know it's one that oftentimes authors really, really struggle with. Um, One thing I actually recommend a lot of authors to do. So, like, let's say you wrote a story or you wrote a novel and it's been accepted. I actually suggest that you go ahead and start researching who you would like to give you blurbs now. And the reason, or the minute that it's accepted. And the reason for that is your publisher is going to start providing those blurbs and those recommendations and any kind of anything that can be used to best promote, best publicize you and your amazing story through the distributor, through the sales team, through social media, and so on. So the sooner that they're able to receive those blurbs, those reviews, and so forth, the better. Now, that doesn't mean that you're not going to continue to get blurbs and you're not going to continue to go forward to get reviews, or rather your publisher won't go forward to get reviews from the likes of LA Times and New York Times and Kirkus Reviews and so on, and BookBub and so on and so forth. It just means that it gives them something that they can more readily talk about or talk to when they do go forward with potential partners and other groups who may be interested in your story. So, one approach to it, if you're not totally comfortable, like you kind of feel like you may end up doing a lot of work on your manuscript with your editor, which happens, right? It happens with all of us, because oftentimes you are gonna want to collaborate with your editor. It's a third party who is well versed in the craft of writing, well versed in narrative, and they can help you, well, hopefully, and they can help you identify areas to strengthen within that story. So, if when your novel or short story or novella or whatever is first acquired, if you're not really comfortable going forward and getting blurbs on that specific title, what you can also do, and I've seen several authors do this, you can go forward and ask those who are well established, who are familiar with your writing. Again, this can be someone, maybe they were your workshop leader at a conference, maybe they taught you in a seminar, but someone, again, of note who is familiar with your writing. You can always approach them and ask them if they would be willing to give you a blurb about your writing in general, and then you can actually bring that forward to your publisher. So, just a thought. It can actually be a really effective way to get that story started regarding your writing and the value of the story that you, maybe not that specific story, but the stories that you do write, that you do bring forward. So I hope that helps. Cool. Okay. Christmas, seriously, be stuck in traffic, that poor man. So like I said, he actually just recently moved cross country. That is a serious trek. I know, I'm actually originally from New Jersey. I was born and raised in Camden, New Jersey. And before we moved to the West Coast, I was actually living in Center City, Philadelphia, in Rittenhouse Square, and I was commuting to Manhattan for a job. And it's so funny. I consider that to be like the best commute I've ever had, because I literally, for about an hour and a half each day, in the morning and at night, I'd get on Amtrak, which has Wi-Fi now, and I just set up my laptop and I would take care of all my email, address any kind of questions, all that kind of stuff before I got in the office. Got in the office, I did all my work, obviously, like I attended meetings and so on. And then on my commute home, typically I had very little work to do, thank goodness. So I would just chill out and read or write or whatever. It was actually pretty wonderful. And my walk from 30th Street Station, or rather Penn Station, to the office was only about a mile, so that was pretty dope. And my commute from 30th Street Station to my home was like 5 blocks. So anyway, so before we moved um, to Los Angeles, which is where I am located, again, I lived in Center City, Philadelphia, and I still remember when my now husband and I decided to move out here. That was like 9 years ago, and my husband at the time was traveling, so he is a musician, and he was touring. So my best friend got in a car with me, and we drove literally across country over 5 days to the apartment where we had resided for almost a year, a little less than a year when we first moved out here. It was so much fun. I mean, I don't really have a regret, but it would have been nice if we had the time to stop along the way and really kind of enjoy different states within the United States that I haven't had an opportunity to visit yet. That would have been a lot of fun. But we did have a blast. We had an amazing time. The one thing that, if anybody does a cross country move like that, the movers showed up and picked up our stuff the same day that we physically left for the cross country drive. And what I would suggest is have the foresight to have a bed waiting for you or delivered when you first arrive. It did not occur to me that the movers would take longer than we did to move across country or to drive across country. So when we first got to the apartment, it was like, oh, holy moly, it's totally empty. We literally had nothing. We had no pots, we had no pans. Thank God we had clothes, but we had no bed. And so the first day when we used to live in Burbank, California, we literally just ended up going to, I think it was like Mattress City, to find a bed to sleep in while we were waiting for all of our stuff to be delivered by the movers. So just something to think about. Okay. Jean Delarneri, she asks, hey, Lisa. Hey. I have 2 independent publishers, small ones, that are interested in my historical novel. What can I expect in terms of a contract if I'm offered one? That's a great question. So this may end up being a longer than expected answer, but I think you'll find this, I hope you'll find this valuable. My first recommendation is go back and look at their catalog list. So the books they've already published, see if there's anybody you already know who they've published, and give your friends a call and ask them about their experience with that publisher. Even if you don't know anyone on that list, I recommend that you see if you can research them and do the same thing. Ask around, find out about what were those authors' experiences with that publishing house. What kind of house was it? What kind of contract did they get? How did they work with the editors? What was that experience? Were they engaged in the process of like cover design? Were they engaged in publicity? Did this publisher give them any publicity, or was that totally put on the shoulders of the author? What was their experiences working with the editor? Meaning, was this collaborative? Was it dictatorial? I'd say do all of that homework, because you want to find out if this is a good home, not just for your story, but for you. Every small publisher, actually every publisher, is going to operate a little bit differently. They're all going to have different clauses within their contracts. So you just want to make sure that you have a chance to talk to people who've already been there, done that, and learn from their experiences. I would also suggest searching on those publishers. So do your own research online. See if you can find articles about the publishers. See if you can find articles about the books. How were they received? So, if um, you research the publisher and it turns out that the books they've published haven't gotten very good reviews, they've been questioned in terms of quality, um, or even more, maybe there's nothing, right? You can't find anything regarding these books. Those are all red flags, right? Um, Also, like I just talked about how I audited my own catalog, like literally I audited every single title to see whether they were available on Amazon and bookshop.org. I recommend you do something similar, and you audit books that they're showing as being available on their website, in Amazon, on bookshop.org, on Target, on Costco, on Walmart. That'll give you a sense of where their books actually are available. You also want to find out what kind of format the books are available in, because some publishers, they only do ebook. Others only do paperback. Others, maybe they only do hardback. I don't know. But you want to find that out. You want to find out if they have deals, if their books have been made available on audiobook. If not, you want to make sure that your contract doesn't state that they have the right to license, basically. So get an agreement on your behalf for the story to be made in other formats. Because if they haven't already done something like that, then you don't want to give them the ability to do it. So for example, we have books available on Audible. We have two books that have been made available through Blackstone Publishing. So we've partnered with Blackstone Publishing for audiobooks. We currently have a couple of our titles that are in conversations with producers for TV. We have a title that's in for producers for webcomic. So you really want to do your homework. You want to find out what has this publisher already done, and make sure that if that contract has states for them to have the right to do certain things that either they've never done before, or even if they haven't done it before, if you go and you sit down and talk to them, that's another thing I really recommend, is that when you first get an offer from a publisher, ask for a chat, right? I think that's a really, really smart move. The reason, it's not just to necessarily say, hey, I want to sit here and question everything in the contract. You do want to ask questions about the contract. If there are portions of the contract that you're not clear on, that when you read it, you were like, I don't get what they're asking me. I don't get what this is saying. You want to sit down and ask them for time to clarify. You should do that. If you can afford a lawyer, I do recommend that you have the contract reviewed by a lawyer, because you want to make sure that you are 100% comfortable with this contract. If there are portions of the contract that when you read it, you were like, I do not want them to have the right to do that, or I am not comfortable with that, then you need to call that out and you need to ask for an adjustment. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to do it, right? I mean, they have the right to say no. You have the right to say no. But hopefully, you'll work together on it in a collaborative manner and be able to come to an agreement. So, all that said, you also want to have that initial sit down so you get a feel for the people that you're about to make an agreement with. You may sit down and talk to the editor or the acquisitions editor or the head of the company or whoever, right? And in that conversation, realize, oof, you don't feel comfortable with them, right? Maybe you don't get along. Maybe there's some vibe. There's something about them that really does not make you feel comfortable. That's a red flag, right? So just, I think it's a lot more than it's a lot more than the terms within the contract itself. Again, every publisher that you encounter is probably going to have a slightly different contract depending on what their scope is, what they're about, what they have available to them, who they work with, and so on. So the bottom line is really just sitting down, reviewing it, do your homework about what they have done, who they have partnered with, what they have available to them, and then just sit down and have a combo with them and figure it out together. So I realized that wasn't a straightforward answer. It wasn't like, look for this, this, and this. But hopefully that you find that helpful. So thank you, Jean. That was a great question. Okay, now I have two cats in case anyone's wondering. I'm sure you're not, but the Master and Margarita. And if anyone knows what reference that is, go ahead and pop it in the comments, and I'll send you a free book. So, oh, Jean, you're totally welcome. So Margarita has decided that she is going to visit with me right now. So if you see another tuxedo cat popping over here, then that would be Margarita. Her brother Master has much bigger, he's much furrier than she is, and she's a little bit more rotund, which I find funny because they only eat cat food. Like it's not like they have at their disposal fried chicken or anything like that. So it's kind of interesting that they're both shaped so dramatically different, but all good. Okay, so if you are new in joining and you've never joined us before, I am Lisa Kastner. I am the founder and executive editor of Running Wild Press, which consists of Running Wild Press, where we publish great stories with great writing that don't fit neatly in a box. We won best of 2019s, 2 best of 2020s. One of our books that's coming out this December, Stargazing in Solitude, actually was just given a starred review by Kirkus. It's a phenomenal memoir. So I really hope you check that out. And we also have another publishing company called RIZE. And with RIZE, we publish great genre stories written by people of color and other lesser represented groups. Chris Major, who's normally here with me on today, which is every Wednesday between 4 and 5 p.m. Pacific time, 7 and 8 p.m. Eastern time. And with RIZE, we will be publishing our initial titles in 2022. We actually acquired them late last year, and believe it or not, guys, it takes that long to get a book out into the world. So it takes about almost a year, if not slightly more, from the date that you've completed the editing process to actually get a book to market. So to be honest, when I first started Running Wild Press, I was like, man, why does it take so long? I have all these amazing friends who have fantastic stories that they got that were acquired, and it's taking them 2 years to get it to market. Like, what's the deal? And now I'm starting to understand. And I've been at this for 5 years, man. We have had Running Wild out and about publishing books since 2016. So it's kind of funny. It's taken me this long to go, oh, that's why this takes a long time. So anyway, we actually have an amazing slate for 2022. We have some fantastic new editors who joined our little band of people, and they're fantastic. They are so amazing. I know that you will be in love with these stories when you have a chance to check them out. Next year, our intention is we have it on the slate to publish between 22 and 25 books under Running Wild Press. We are currently acquiring titles for RIZE. We literally just put out offers to two authors for RIZE for their titles to come out in 2022. So I'm really excited. I really hope they accept our offers because I think you're really going to love these stories. So we're just continuing to go through the submissions. If you are a person of color or another lesser represented group, so LGBTQ plus, then we also have, right now, we are open for short stories for a brand new annual short story anthology. So we have one with Running Wild Press that we run every year. And so for RIZE, we're going to be doing the exact same thing. We're going to have a short story anthology, and we're also going to have a novella anthology. Now remember, for RIZE, these have to be genre stories. It doesn't matter the genre. It can be romance, it could be dark fiction, it could be fantasy, it could be science fiction, it could be young adults, it could be humor, whatever it is, it just has to be fiction. It cannot be literary. If you are a person of color or of another lesser represented group like an LGBTQ, and you did write more of literary piece, please, please, please submit it to Running Wild Press. It's not a one or the other kind of thing. It's more about having people of color and other lesser represented groups having a platform for genre stories. Because believe it or not, between 1950 and 2018, I want to say, I think it's only like less than 1% of all the genre stories, like books, full-length books that were published in the US were written by people of color. And that's atrocious. So we're doing something about it, right? That's why we have RIZE. Okay. So, gosh, Chris must seriously, poor guy, be stuck in traffic. So again, I am Lisa Kastner. I'm the founder and executive editor of Running Wild Press, and I am here to answer whatever your questions may be every Wednesday between 4 and 5 p.m. Pacific time or 7 and 8 p.m. Eastern time. These times might change. The date might change. Just guys, as a heads up, in the near future. I have some life changes, as does Chris. So we may be shifting this a little bit. So don't worry. We'll give you a heads up before we actually do change the date and time. But know that that is most likely going to be coming. Cool? Cool. Okay. Let me see. Just looking to see if I have any other notes from Chris. No, I think he's just literally seriously stuck in traffic. So hopefully he can join us. So, okay, guys, if anybody has any questions, like I said, go ahead, feel free to ask. This here is Master. Ta-da! His little fuzzy butt. He's very vocal. I know it's kind of like, really? But seriously, he's very vocal. He likes to talk. So one of his favorite things to do is actually, like, first thing in the morning, he comes up to me and he just starts like talking, like meow, 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 meow. Believe it or not, it's actually really funny. And then he usually what will get him to stop talking, he likes to drink my water. For real, he likes to drink my ice water. So if I give him my ice water, then that'll calm him down and get him to quiet, to be quiet. Yep. So anyway, or if it's at night, so that's during the day. If it's at night, if I let him sit in my lap, then that will get him to be quiet as well. So anyway, for anyone who has pets, I'm sure you can probably, you can associate with that. Okay, so guys, again, if you have any kind of questions, please go ahead, ask away. Just pop them in the comments section and I will be more than happy to answer them. If this is after Wednesday at 4 p.m. Pacific time, 7 p.m. Eastern time. It is not a big deal. You can go ahead, put your questions in the comments, because Chris and I always go back and check, and we make sure to answer your questions in a future session. If you're watching this and you're kind of like, wow, she talks a lot. Yeah, it's an hour, man. We're basically here for a full-on hour. Yep. So again, any questions, go ahead, pop it in the comments section. I'm more than happy to answer. So let's see, what other common questions have come up recently. What you'll probably do, so actually anybody who submits, who's a writer and you submit your pieces to different publishers, I have a couple of suggestions, if that's okay. So one, I really do recommend that you do your research on a publisher before you send them your work. The reason for that is, A, you don't want to waste their time. You don't want to waste your own time. And, I remember back in the day, gosh, 20 years ago, I wrote a nonfiction book, which was like Santa's, it was kind of satirical, but it was also nonfiction. But it was like Santa's project guide to project management or something like that. So it was real agile project management tools and processes, but written as if, was like one of Santa's elves who was in charge of all of his project management to do it. And so I wrote it and I sent it to a ton of different publishers because I was just like, I just wanted to see if somebody would pick it up. And there was only one company that responded, and it turned out that it was actually a self-publishing company, which I didn't realize at the time until they sent me not just a contract, but they sent me what the costs were associated with actually publishing the book. And that's when I'm like, you're a self-publisher. So keep that in mind. If you have sent your book to a publishing company and they come back with costs for you to pay, then it is not a standard publisher, right? They are either a hybrid or they're a self-publishing company, but they may be positioning themselves as if they were more of a standard publisher. So just be aware of that. But yeah, so you want to do your homework. Go ahead, do your homework on the different types of publishers. You also want to ask around, like when you go to conferences, when you attend seminars, when you attend like Q&As, or it could be anything from the American Library Association to pen writers to maybe it's a writer's workshop, whatever. If there is an editor or someone representing a publishing house there, ask them what their process is. Ask them, how do they acquire titles? What is the author involved in for their the overall publishing process? Because every single publisher is going to be a little bit different, right? Some of them will only have you involved in the editing process, and they will not engage you at all in cover design. You will have nothing to do with cover design, interior design, nothing. Others are going to have you involved in that process. And, a third may have some kind of, different variations. Typically, for larger houses, and actually most houses, until you're a well-known entity, you're a better-known author, you probably won't be invited to be engaged in those activities. But some do have, some will. So we're a little bit of an oddity in that, we believe that every author, when they are writing their story, you have certain images that are prominent in your mind as you're writing it, and that can influence the cover design. So we actually do ask our authors for if they have any, if there's any influential artwork or images or descriptions that they have for the covers. And then we send that to our cover designer and he comes back with a couple of options, and then you get to pick among them. Now, that doesn't mean that you know, if you provide a drawing, we do exactly what you have provided. Um, but it does mean that you are able to influence the initial cover. So I hope that makes sense. Don McIntyre asks, how can I start getting blurbs and getting people interested in a soon to be published book when I'm not really sure what the title will end up being or what the cover will eventually look like? Neither what the title or the cover should influence it. If you are going out to get blurbs, then it's about the piece itself. It's about the story. So you'll most likely be doing is like shooting an email out and just saying, hey, I have a book coming out soon. You know, the title, the in process title is blah. And I would love it if you would be willing to give me a blurb for the title. I'm more than happy to send you a copy of the manuscript that's currently in draft or that I'm currently working on with my editor to get your feedback. What you can also do, and again, the cover doesn't influence this at all. The cover has nothing to do with the story itself, and it has nothing to do with the actual getting with the blurbs that you'll receive. Um, what you can also do is so we talked about this a little bit in the beginning, but you can go out if you know you're about to have a title or a piece that's going to be published in the next like whatever 6 months, year, 2 years, and it's currently in the editing process. If you have been to workshops, been to conferences, been to seminars, and you've worked with a better known author or authors, or there are authors or better known author or authors who are familiar with your work, you can always go to them and ask them if they would be willing to give you a broad, like a general, blurb about your writing. And you can use that as initial blurbs for the title. I mean, obviously you want to ask them if they're comfortable with doing that. But yeah, you can absolutely do it. Believe it or not, Dawn, a lot of authors are doing that now, just because it's very helpful in getting it to market and getting it available in more venues. Because the more better known authors who have or influencers, not just authors, any kind of influencer, someone of note, if they have given a thumbs up to a new author, then typically that will then enable libraries, bookstores, other retailers to have a greater comfort level in actually picking up that story. Because believe it or not, the big publishers, some of them publish 100,000 books a year. Like, I'm not kidding. Seriously, that many. And then there's like almost 3,000 mid to small to mid-sized publishers out there already. So it's crazy the number of titles that they have available to them, meaning, you know, the variety of retailers and bookstores and so on. So you just want to make sure that you're really well positioned. So Dawn says, I'm going to give that a try. I had a few folks in mind already. That's awesome. And if you try it and you're still finding challenges, feel free to email me, lkastner@runningwildpress.com, and let me know how it went, and let me know if you had any challenges, like what happened, and maybe I can help you brainstorm like other ways to approach individuals about representing your story or giving you a blurb. So cool. I hope that was helpful. So we have 10 minutes left. Honestly, thank you, Wendy. Thank you, Jean. Thank you, Dawn. These have all been great questions. Thank you, John, for your fantastic question from a little bit ago. I really, really, really love when we have a chance to sit here, guys, and chat, and that you have an opportunity to ask any kind of question that you'd like. Again, for those who are watching and who may not be incredibly familiar, I am Lisa Kastner. I am the founder and executive editor of Running Wild, which consists of Running Wild Press, where we publish great stories with great writing that don't fit neatly in a box, and RIZE, where we publish great genre stories written by people of color and other lesser represented groups. We have won 2 Best of 2019s, 2 Best of 2020s, numerous starred reviews, several great reviews. We've had a couple of Amazon bestsellers. And we, typically myself and Chris Major, are here for you every Wednesday between 4 p.m. Pacific time and 5 p.m. Pacific time, or 7 p.m. Eastern and 8 p.m. Eastern. And we're here to answer whatever questions that you may have. It can be around creative writing. It can be around publishing. It can be the business of publishing. It can be whatever that you want. And we're more than happy to chat. Dawn says that's a lot to be proud of. Dawn, I've got to say, we have been very blessed. We have some amazing, amazing people on our team who I love, love, love. We have amazing authors, amazing editors, incredible product managers, incredible, event planners. We really have a fantastic, fantastic team. And we have an incredible advisory board as well, who I can't be more thankful. Our advisory board consists of Jonathan Mayberry, Brett Cohen, who's the former president of Quirk Books, and Chris Ryle, who's the former president and chief creative officer, I believe, of IDW Publishing. And they have just been so just purely amazing. So really, when you say it takes a team, it really does take a team. It takes a village, and we have the best village on the planet. So, okay. Okay. So I see. Sorry. So Chris is now, unfortunately, it looks like he had the wrong link for this week. So this is totally my bad. So I'll make sure that next week he has the right link to this. I thought I had sent it to him, but I guess I was wrong. So anyway, okay. So guys, we have 8 minutes left. Again, if you have any last minute questions, feel free to go ahead, pop it in the comments section. I am more than happy to answer any questions that you may have around publishing, creative writing, pretty much you name it. I'm more than happy to. If you're checking this out and this is the recorded version, that isn't a big deal. You can, again, go ahead, pop your questions in the comments section, because we do go back and we do check every week to see if anybody has come back with any kind of questions, and we're more than happy to answer them. So with that, I think, we only have a couple more minutes left. Look out, guys. So if you write short stories, I'm going to go back to your submission process again, if that's okay. I actually am a mentor for the Horror Writers Association. I'm a mentor for several other groups as well, but specifically when we're talking about creative writing. And I give this recommendation to all my mentees. You want to do your research on whatever publications or any publishers that you are submitting to, because it will cause you a lot less heartbreak if you are already aware and you're already knowledgeable of the kinds of stories that they typically do accept, and you are aware and you are knowledgeable of what their different submission periods are, when they are, what they're specifically looking for during those submission periods, so that you can align to that. It will make your life 100 times easier. It doesn't mean that they're going to accept it, but it means that you have a greater likelihood that they will be more likely to accept it. So what I mean by that is, like, we have submission periods specifically for our novella anthology, and we're looking for cross-genre pieces. So you want to go and possibly you can pick up one of our cross-genre, our previous anthologies, skim through it, look at the kinds of stories that we've picked up in the past. If you already have a story that you've written that's similar or well aligned to it, then great. Then send that in. Or you can write to the anthology. So what I mean by that is, you look at our requirements and you write us just a story specifically for that anthology, and then send that in. Right now, again, we have an anthology submission period that's open for short stories for RIZE. So we're looking for genre, short stories, any kind of genre. So you just want to make sure that you're a person of color or of a other lesser represented group, and that you are submitting a genre short story. If you send, and we've had this before, if you are submitting to a short story and the publisher only publishes fantasy, and you're submitting a literary piece, they're not going to accept it, right? So you're just opening yourself up for heartbreak by not following their guidelines. They're not all of a sudden going to become a literary anthology or a literary publisher when they're a fantasy publisher. So create your own plan. You want to be very strategic. You want to research those publishers. You want to look at their submission periods. You want to see specifically what it is that they are looking for. If you can, you want to pick up one or two of previously published works so you get a sense of what they're specifically looking for. You want to write to, meaning you want to write the story itself to meet to those guidelines, or you want to pick from your library of previously written stories and see what ones fit within those guidelines, and you want to submit to that. I know it is so enticing to simply just send stories out to everybody and pray that someone's going to pick it up. I've done it. Every writer has done it at some point, right? Because you're tired and you're frustrated and you feel like, God, I've written my heart out. I've written all these great stories. How come no one's picking it up? Like, what is the deal? It has 9 times out of 10, a lot of time. Well, I can't say that. A lot of times you are causing yourself your own heartbreak by not actually following the guidelines and by not doing your homework regarding that publisher. Please, please just do it. Okay. If you are writing in more from like an artistic perspective, right? So you're doing more free form, then own it. Like, that's okay, right? You can do that. But then also acknowledge that means a lot of publishers aren't going to look at your work because they're not looking for more artistic pieces. It doesn't mean you can't write them. It doesn't mean you can't send them out. It means you just be smart about where you actually send the work, right? So, and I'm one of those. I like to be challenged. I like to play with genre. I like to play with structure. I like to play with story. So that means I can't, I'm probably not going to send my work to a Penguin or a St. Martin. I'm probably not going to send my work to like a publisher that purely does genre pieces, because I don't write genre. I would only be setting myself up for heartbreak by doing that. So I'm just making this recommendation so that you can avoid your own heartbreak in the future. So I hope that makes sense. Like I said, guys, I totally get it. I've been there. I've been writing for a very long time. I totally understand the desire to simply just send your work out everywhere and pray that somebody picks it up. But just be aware of what that means, and that you're probably also setting yourself up by not doing your homework, by not doing your research, by not following their guidelines, for them to turn you down. So again, be aware. Now, and we have gotten titles like that. We've gotten submissions that it was clear that they just sent us the last thing that the person had written. It doesn't mean it was poorly written. When I rejected it, I noted, like, hey, did you realize that you just wrote a noir piece? We don't publish purely genre under Running Wild Press. So, you may want to send this to a publisher that publishes purely noir. And I will make those recommendations. And I have made those recommendations in the past. And I know my editors do the same. So, hopefully other publishers will be kind as well and give you that kind of guidance and that kind of feedback. So cool. All right. with that, I want to thank everybody. Thank you so much for the great questions. Thank you, Dawn. Thank you, Jean. Thank you, Wendy. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you, John, for your question previously. We love you guys. We are very thankful for you. Join us again next week, Wednesday, 4 p.m. Pacific time, 7 p.m. Eastern time. And if you are watching this and it's not Wednesday between that time frame, go ahead and you have got a question, go ahead and pop it in the comments, and we will be more than happy to talk to you about it next week. So with that, love you guys. Have a great week, and we will talk to you soon.